Good morning, afternoon, or evening, ladies and gentlemen, Allincrypto here, and welcome back, guys, on this magnificent Monday for what is going to be nothing short of another jam-packed daily market update with yours truly. And as always, we have a hell of a lot to get into. We are going to be starting the video off by taking a look, as we like to do on a Monday, at CoinShares Digital Asset Fund Flow Weekly Report. Now, very positive news coming from this. We have a $436 million inflow in the prior week. Of course, Bitcoin leading the pack. Ethereum still struggling due to the conversion of GETH into the ETFs for obvious reasons, like what we saw with Bitcoin. We see Bitcoin short products. Actually, people are taking off their short products. We saw big outflows in regards to them a couple of weeks ago. Solana continuing to see that institutional favoritism and inflows coming in for the fourth consecutive week. And of course, some of the products out there seeing inflows also. Institutions know what's coming. So do me and you. And hopefully we're presenting that in regards to these daily market updates. The direction we think the space is going in broadly. Everything is playing out perfectly. The altcoin market is really where it should be. We'll do a longer video on that perhaps later on today. We'll do a live stream today as well, guys. We'll also be live streaming you the Fed rate cut on Wednesday. So do become a subscriber. We're going to aim to become the #1 shop for crypto. And hopefully you guys can help me on that journey. Big charity event likely coming. We're going to do something charitable when we get to 100,000 subscribers. We're right around the corner. Then we're going to be diving over to some news from the El Salvadorian president yesterday. He announced that El Salvador would no longer acquire external debt to finance the next general budget of the nation. Now, they are breaking free, and Bitcoin is a part of this and designed for this, from the kind of globalist debt slavery that is in thrust on most nations out there. And if El Salvador can do it, you're going to see a number of other countries look to do that also. And then Bitcoin really becomes a matter of national security. We spoke about Bitcoin miners in one of the live streams. Great opportunities there. We have a, 26x Bitcoin miner is our first target. Then we actually have broader targets for it. Then, of course, it's a massive week. We have the Fed rate cut coming this week. It's going to be big. The markets, they could throw a bit of a wobbler, likely be volatility around this. Ultimately, that's going to do things for the dollar. Dollar kind of capitulating now, like in the direction we thought it was going to. There's been an element of dollar weakness every single Bitcoin bull market, and vice versa in the bear markets. There's been an element of dollar strength. I'll show you a great example of how a central bank manipulates their currency and thus the markets. When their currency gets strong through interest rate hikes with a JPY, and we saw the unwind of that, the markets typically adjust. We're about to see the adverse of that with the largest central bank in the world and many others out there. Europe cut their rates by 25 basis points just the other day. Then we'll talk about Bitcoin and the fact that USDT minted another $1 billion worth of money, essentially. And we've seen USD dominance climb. We think USDT dominance is going to go to right around 1-2%. Dominance climbing isn't, on the surface of it, it's quite a negative thing, but in the broader, if you understand that, what that's essentially saying is cash on the sidelines, ready to pour back into the markets with Bitcoin, sort of finishing that broadening flag-like structure that it's been in. So we're super excited, guys. We've survived and managed to persevere in the face of selling May come back in St. Leger's Day, which was last week. Now, hopefully, it's go time, and we're all going to be driving Lambos and Ferraris by the end of 2025. But we shall see. As promised, let's start things off with Digital Asset Fund Flows Volume 200. Flows rebound with 436 million inflows. Bitcoin leads, Ethereum struggles. You can see this is it. We've had a couple of prior weeks of outflows. Digital asset investment products saw a reversal with inflows reaching $436 million after a period of outflows amounting to 1.2 billion. Ethereum making up a big part of that. We did look at the whole Jim Bianco comment about the Bitcoin ETFs being a failure. We don't believe so. You can kind of guess his bias and positioning as a result of that comment. We believe the surge in inflows towards the end of the week was driven by a significant shift in market expectations for the potential 50 basis point interest rate cut on September the 18th, which is on Wednesday. We've been one of the few people to say a 50 is likely, just simply for a number of reasons. One, the way the dollar's selling off, and also because if you look at where other central banks are, they're significantly further ahead, and that gives the Fed room to cut. And I think that's been coordinated in regards to not sort of the dollar coming down, we think is in an orderly fashion, just like we think oil's going to come down in an orderly fashion, not a capitulatory one like we saw in March 2020. And that generally is going to alleviate headwinds against risk markets. Ethereum continued to face challenges, experiencing outflows of $19 million. So there were inflows, but they were null and void. You can see short Bitcoin bearing the brunt or losing ground. Let's read this little sort of pretext. In terms of regions, of course, US is the largest. That's why US is so significant. We had huge news in regards to regulatory clarity the other day. Still don't. I can't believe that wasn't as big a news or shared as much as it was. It escaped many other sort of content creators. It was definitely on Twitter, but only by the people you'd expect to be talking about it. Bitcoin was the primary focus, seeing $436 million of inflows, having seen 10-day runs of outflows totaling $1.18 billion. Short Bitcoin flows reversed, seeing outflows of 8.5 following 3 straight weeks of inflows. Good news. Certainly as we're now likely going to be turning the corner for Bitcoin. Ethereum continues to suffer, seeing $19 million in outflows, the only other asset alongside short Bitcoin in what we believe is due to concerns over L1 profitability following Decun. Controversially, Solana saw its 4th week of inflows totaling 13.8 million. Blockchain equity saw inflows of 100, wow, and 5 million following the seeding and launching of several new ETFs in the US. So we're very, very bullish on a number of Bitcoin ETPs. We think there's 10x's coming for them. That aligns with where we think others' market cap is going and a number of other things. So we are just excited about the time that we've got ahead of us, guys. And we've tried to keep people as sort of grounded in the bigger picture as possible, because crypto volatility is inherent with this space, and we need to learn to sort of love it, if you will. There's opportunities that get presented as a result of it. Now, this is some news out of El Salvador. I wish them all the best in what they're trying to do in regards to escaping the globalist chokehold that is thrust upon. You know, the UK is a great example. The president of El Salvador announced they would no longer require external debt to finance the next general budget of the nation. El Salvador is on a path to true freedom. I am all about this. Bitcoin was created to do this. It's going to be interesting if certainly Bitcoin gets to some of the targets that we've got for it, to see what kind of position El Salvador's in, and others will follow. It's kind of like, you know, you want that person to jump before you do, to just make sure, you know, gets in the water okay, there's no sharks or anything there. This could set up a broader catastrophe later on down the line. I think that Bitcoin is going to come under some attack, but what they're going to do is, if you are going to kill a monster, you take its head, and that only comes with perhaps leveraging people up with Bitcoin, then causing manipulation to cause a crash in it, and then sort of saying, okay, well, that didn't work, so here's the new one, or forking it, or something like that. There's an interesting, very interesting time we've got ahead of us. So good news from El Salvador. Let's talk about the big news this week. Now, there's a high probability that the Fed are going to do a 50 basis rate cut. Now, we thought this was the case based on how aggressively the dollar's been selling off. Of course, the dollar is largely led by interest rates, because when they're going up, it increases the demand of dollar. There's more dollar debt out there than other nations, which is why the Dixie gains strength, and vice versa. And this is why other central banks have gone first, and actually I think the Fed more than has enough room to do a 50 basis point rate cut. There's been an element of dollar weakness. If you guys are considering becoming a patron, great time to do it. Go and watch yesterday's meeting. We did a meeting like we do every single Sunday, where we cover our big picture, the plan, and what we're aiming for. But you can see this very much was at support, slightly going to break support. Of course, fundamentally, we know this is the case. And that ultimately is going to alleviate pressure on risk and see risk do well. Gold very nearly at our target. This is done beautifully. Anybody that doesn't believe in technical analysis, just stick around, guys, and we'll convert you. And then, of course, you've got the JPY being a great example of Bank of Japan upping interest rates, strengthening their currency, manipulating their currency, and thus leaning on their native risk market. The Nikkei is really a short yen trade. And we're about to see the adverse of that. You know, can we flip these up? With the largest central bank in the world, which is the Fed. And all the markets are very much positioned in that manner. We're now seeing people talk about stage analysis and all this stuff that we've been talking about for a while. In fact, we developed an entire course about it. And I think for my Patreons, I gave a first initial course or introduction to it, you know, nearly 2 years ago now. This stuff works. So this is all taking place on Wednesday. I think they're going to do a 50. I think you could get some turbulence around that. We'll stream it. We'll give some feedback on it on Wednesday. But ultimately, this sets things in the broader direction. You got the Bank of England looking also to potentially, they want to leave rates where they are. I think they should continue to cut them. Although the government that we've got, in my opinion, isn't a very friendly one. You know, all you need to know is Keir Starmer's definition of working class people is people with no savings. That's his own definition. And if you look at the school of thought, the economic school of thought, or the social school of thought that he comes from, it worries me. And you know, I'm a little bit sad to say this, apprehensive about staying in the UK. We might jump ship, unfortunately, and I love this country. I'm a true Brit. I have English, Irish, Scottish, and Welsh blood flowing through my veins. But you know, I'm not going to suffer. I think unfair taxes, certainly when they don't go to helping other people. And anyway, let's not go down there. On to let's cover the Tether news before we dive onto Bitcoin. They've just minted another $1 billion. Now let's do some work on Tether. USDT dominance. Now we're expecting Tether's dominance to come all the way down to 1.3%. I think there's regulatory issues with that. I think the rise of real USD, which is Ripple stablecoin, is going to play a role. This going up is actually not such a bad thing for the market. It is whilst it's going up, but really what this is cash on the sidelines. When this starts to come down and certainly continue aligning with where Bitcoin is, so on and so forth. In fact, if you throw a Bitcoin chart on, they're kind of we'll just use a BLX for the sake of it. You can see there's a reversal coming in these, which is going to be rather interesting, but certainly that's more liquidity that we're ultimately going to see thrust into the market. I'm very excited about when they start to US dollar pair and GBP pair rather than USDT pair some of the perpetuals, because it unlocks a hell of a lot of capital. In regards to Bitcoin, guys, you all know the plan at this point. And we did a very interesting video the other day. We've covered it a number of times. Let's go on my live stream topics, where we looked at Bitcoin, where it's at, and a number of assets that were where Bitcoin was at that are all sort of did the exact same thing and then saw a broader continuation. The time is coming, ladies and gentlemen. Here I was looking at this. For that reassertion, and then when we look at miners, you know, they all look great, so on and so forth. It's a great time we've got ahead of us, guys. Just, you've got to be in it to win it, really. I think this is a EU miner actually doing quite well today. Perhaps not. So hang in there, guys. You know, the time is coming for an amazing time. There is a little bit of a word of warning. You know, you might see some volatility coming on the back end of the Fed rate hike, or cut, sorry. Certainly in regards to what he says, because their market's kind of going to be looking for the next things to anchor onto. But we shall see. It's not going to be long before Bitcoin takes this midpoint that's been sort of pinning you as resistance, completes the broader pattern, sees its way to 130k, 150k, and then potentially all the way to 309. So it's generally a happy Monday, guys. And we are, as always, absolutely pleasured and delighted to be bringing you the latest and greatest news. On that note, I'm going to love and leave you guys. Thanks for watching. See you all in the next one.